Hello there, welcome back to Making the Mix, and we are now at the phase we are bringing the vocals and the guitar back together again, and then we're going to add in the rest of our elements of our stew here to sort of get everything into the mix. Let me show you, give you a quick update as to what I've been doing to it, because as we have mentioned before, mixing is an iterative thing. You do some things, it makes you do some other things, and then you go, I need to go back and do something about that earlier thing I needed that wasn't quite what it needed to be. And right now we're in this process really of starting to add stuff. We're starting adding things back into the mix. Levels are starting to creep up. Things are getting a little bit out of whack, just little by little. When you start adding a lot of extra instruments, all of a sudden the drums start to get smaller. When the drums start getting smaller, all of a sudden you know you're in trouble. So I've been sort of running back and forth a little bit. I went and put a little more tom-tom in the reverb. I went ahead and brought it back a little bit more of this bass amp that we brought in earlier. We were talking about this, sort of gives us a little texture, and I've got this little fader right here. It may find its way up little by little over the course of this mix down, but this is sort of, that gives me my texture. If I'm start missing the bass, I bring that in. Back to the vocal, I put an ozone compressor on it. One of the problems that I had when I started putting some compression on it and stuff is that it brought some things out that I wasn't really aware of when I started soloing it. So let me show you what happened here, because I'd had to do a little surgery to the vocals here. Look at this. Let me just sort of show you why I had to do this. Apparently when I was doing this vocal, and I kind of remember this when I did this vocal, the floor was rattling my mic stand, and as I was sort of pushing my foot down, I was getting little really super low frequency things, and it's like this right here. Let's just solo that for a second, see what you mean by that. I don't know if you can actually hear that right there, but I can. When I have my headphones on, I started realizing I had a lot of those all through that vocal track. So I just went through and skinned them out. And I didn't try to put any room tone back in between these things, because we're not trying to do like sound for picture. This vocal is going to be riding into a reverb and a delay probably, so I'm not too worried about this dead space here. So anyways, I had to go back and do all the stuff with the vocals. This is not mixed mode stuff. Mixed mode is kind of like a performance. You do want to sort of get into a flow where you're just grooving, you're adding in the instruments, you're EQing, you're compressing, you're getting the vibe going. And if you can do that, then you can get the mix done rather quickly. Don't get burned out. So I got my lead vocal, I've got my chorus lead, so they both have the same stuff on it. The lo-fi, let's go through this again, I'll show you what I got here. Lo-fi, and I've only got one tick on the distortion. And I'm trying out one tick of saturation, but really that's all I wanted was one tick. And I noticed a big difference. I didn't want any more than that. It really, again, what that does is just gives you some extra upper frequency stuff that you can use. And you can take away later if you don't like it. I put a vintage limiter here next. I decided to switch it out. I'm using this instead of the 1176. I'm set this so I've got my true peak down at -1. So I don't even have to worry about that. I'm not even going anywhere near that, but I've just sort of put that there just to be Mr. Safe Guy. I'm using the tube setting on this, and I've got the threshold down, so it's tickling it and making it just do a little bit of work, not a lot of work. After that, I'm hitting my ozone 9. I've got my filter here, and then I've got a little bump just to get a little warmth out of this. I found there was a little trash, sort of not so much trash, but there was this hardness in my vocal that was right around this area right here, around the 2.5K area. And then I did a little Baxendall here to get just whatever high end I could get out of my vocal out of that, just to get a little bit of top end on it. And then I have a little tape echo that I've got it running into just to sort of get a little shadow on it. It's about 78 milliseconds. Just pulled it back. It's very little of that in the mix. It's going through that, just a single feedback. I'm kind of liking how that's sort of getting a little shadow behind my voice right there. And the voice is also going to not the vocal delay that I've got the chorus vocal going into, but I've got it going into this IRL. I got my nice concert hall here, my convolution reverb that I've got from Waves. So it's not a very big hall, but I really like the way my voice sounds in it in the verse, so that's going to that. And then in the chorus, I've got my voice going to this delay when I'm doing the spreader. And I'm kind of liking that spread on that. I'm still contemplating whether or not I want to go and put the chorus vocal into a larger space, and I'm still thinking about that. But I'm kind of liking where it's sitting right now, but it still seems like it's getting a little beat up. I might change my mind later. So anyways, that's the state of the vocal. I've got a little vocal double part that I just went ahead and I'm just squishing it. I'm a vocal double in the chorus. I'm squashing it, bringing the output up, doing a little bit of EQ on that, and just doing a filter, and I'm just putting a little high end up in that. I might even pull a little other stuff out of that, but that's just mostly just sort of give a little sheen and glisten to that double. That's my vocal thing, and I'm trying to bring that back into guitar world. So I'm going to put it in now, and I've been trying to make sure that all my guitars sit with it well. Listen to this as it plays by, and what I would like you to do is I'm still sort of messing with the levels a little bit. I've kind of got the vocals seated in a place where I'm kind of liking it, but I've been going up and down with it lately, and I'm still saving my faders to do vocal rides. So I'm not too worried about it. I'd like to be able to listen to it and not have the vocal ever pop out for me. I'm going to prioritize the vocal. I want to make sure the vocal's more clear and sounding good than the guitar. So if I feel like the guitars need to be sort of scooped out to make more room for the vocal, I'm going to do that. But anyways, let's listen and just sort of contemplate this as it goes by.
I never asked for a mountain, it just came to me. I woke up with a mountain between me and the deep blue sea. So I asked the mountain, why'd you come and find me? I never wanted a mountain between me and the one place I wanna be.
So that's the vocal I've got. That limiter you're seeing right over here, that's the vocal.
I listened hard to the mountain,
Just doing this.
said nothing to me. So I climbed up a mountain, it was the only way to break free. Climbing up on the mountain made me forget about the sea. I started thinking that mountain was all my world was ever gonna, all my world was ever gonna, all my world was ever gonna be.
So I'm liking where things are settling right now. I think I've got pretty much, I've still got some things to add in. So I just want to make sure all my guitars are pretty much related to each other. I switched a couple of guitars around in my chorus thing. So now actually I've got the 3 guitar up the middle, the 5 guitar on the left, and the Ross guitar 3 on the right. Because I found that this just had more treble stuff going on, and I liked more of the presence of the treble on both of those guitars, and then I decided to put that third one in the middle. So again, and this is something you might find yourself doing when you're doing stuff with multiple guitars. Just move them around a little bit, sort of see what works for you. In this case, I've only got 3 to work with, so I just sort of play 3-card Monty with them a little bit, sort of see where they lay better. It's okay to also move them in the pan world. We can automate pans if you want to do that too, so you can move these things around. You don't have to necessarily live with them exactly where they are. I went ahead and made a couple of reverbs from my guitars. My clean guitar, which is Ross guitar 1, and the other clean guitar 1 guitar, they're back a little bit. I decided the one that's doing the auto pan, I wanted to put them back in the soundstage, because I'm also thinking about my soundstage right now. I've got those guitars, the clean guitar sort of back with a reverb. I've got this the 2 guitar and the Ross guitar 2 are dry, and I've got them hard pan left and right, so they're going to be right up front. Then those clean guitars will be back here. When we get to the It's Real section, then the guitars are further back in a room and it gets bigger. That's kind of the scheme that I've come up with for the guitars, and that's what I'm sticking with. So then you start plotting it out like it's some kind of a strategic game or something. I'm pretty happy with the way things are guitar going right now. My vocals are pretty good right now, so I'm going to start adding in some of these other elements. Let's start with some keyboards. So looking at our keyboard situation, I've got this big verse riff here. Let's just sort of listen to that real quick by itself. Sort of a synthetic kind of orchestra. Another thing that's happening right next to that, let's just see. Two textural things. I went ahead and made a reverb already for this, and I made it sort of like a theater. These keyboards are going to be a little further behind everything. I've got my guitars here, and I'm kind of feeling like these keys are going to be a little bit further back. So I want to build my soundstage to the rear now a little bit. So let's open up the keys master. I'm going to keep this key verb down for now, and let's just check out one. All right, obviously that's going to be pretty loud. Loop this and get the level right. So bear with me. And then let's see about getting that into the reverb real quick. And then so I'm trying to find that magic sort of point where it's back in the mix, but then I can also then push it into the reverb more, so I get more of the reverb to the original track blend, but it's back there more. So I've been working the clip gain here and working my send back and forth to try to find my nice level. And let's just get that looped. I'm going to pull some low end off of that. I want to hear some of that wrangle, 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 so I'm going to just EQ that a little bit. Get a little ozone on it real quick. Okay, I like that. I've sort of skinned off, a whole lot of frequency and added a bunch of high end to sort of compensate for the roll off. And then I'm putting that into the reverb and sort of trying to get that a little back now, further behind the little synthesizer orchestra. And I think that's working for me. I'm hearing some of that sort of the character of the, which is what I'm looking for. And what's really good though is when I have it in the mix, I don't feel like it's getting in the way of any of the other instruments. I can still pick out all the other stuff that's happening while it's playing. So it's not masking anything, it's not being masked. I'm happy about that part. All right, let's check out this other part here that's happening, this big bunch of junk over here. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to pull that down. Let's just do it now. Pull that back a little bit. Go now! Okay, that's got to go into the reverb. As I recall, that is definitely sort of taking over for the lead vocal in terms of level. That's sort of the focal point of this section going to the next vocal. It's not a background thing, it's actually a little bit more of a foreground thing. I'm not going to put quite as much reverb on it. And let's just see how it sounds without an EQ on it right now and see if we like it. We can get the level back. All right.
Go now! Hanging up on the mountain, sing the rap.
Almost. Let me get it down just a little bit.
Go now! Hanging up on the mountain.
I don't really feel the need to EQ that. I think that's going to happen right there pretty well at its level. Let's check out this orchestra here. And I think this goes along with those guitars that I got left and right. So if I keep those dry, let's just see what happens around these sections. There's going to be a lot of low-end information on that. I'm not sure if I want it or not, but let's get a little closer here. Let me mute that. We already got a lot of low end happening with those guitars. Bass. Let's see if we can't take some of the low end off this orchestra real quick. And then I can bring it up and maybe get some more fun from it. So let's pull out let's get our good old ozone again because we can see what's going on. Look at that. Ugh. Okay, let's do the filtration here. Up a little bit now. Just kind of making that coexist with those with the guitars that are happening right there. Let me see if I put that in the reverb. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Sort of have a quick look at this. Yeah, I don't want to miss out on that timpani, I guess. Okay, now
So I asked the mountain, why'd you come and find me? I never wanted a mountain between me and the one place I want to be.
Let's get that back.
Between me and the one place I want to be.
Trying to tuck it in behind the vocal a little bit. I don't want it to overpower.
Between me and the one place I want to be. I listened hard to the mountain, it said nothing to me. So I climbed up a mountain, it was the only way to break free. Climbing up on the mountain,
this big
made me forget about the sea. Started thinking that mountains, saw what was ever gonna, what was ever gonna, what was ever gonna
be. Okay, so I'm liking where those are kind of laying right now. Let's get these background vocals in now, because this is where they come in. There's no keyboards in. It's real section. It's all about the backgrounds. Right now, all my backgrounds and my harmonies are lined up in this sort of area here. I've got everything up the middle, so I'm going to have to sort of figure out where I want to pan them. I think I've got a couple of double things here, and I want to make sure that they're away from each other when that happens. I've gone ahead and made EQs for all of these. Then basically started with filtered out and a little bit of high-end frosting on all of these, just to start with. Plus, I went ahead and put just a garden variety compressor on all of the backgrounds, because one thing I liked about backgrounds, I want them to be really controlled with any of their transients. I want them to be really controlled, because I like backgrounds to really just sort of sit exactly where they need to be sitting. I don't want fluctuations too much in my levels with the background vocals. So I've gone ahead and just done this sort of prophylactically, if you will. I haven't really set any of these yet, so we're just going to sort of bring some of these in and set these as we go. First order of business is this stuff right here, and this is just a vocal delay that I have going from one section to the next. Let's play it right here. Let me go ahead and open up the background vocal track. I've got the reverb already muted. I'm going to mute everybody but what I'm working on, and we're going to sort of build this little by little, starting with these guys. Since it's a change in tempo between these two sections, and I wanted to have this effect, this sort of a delay effect in the vocal going across, I had to actually hand sort of switch them over. I couldn't just have it at one tempo. I had to sort of personally change their tempos a little bit. So that's why they're on their own tracks already. So let's go ahead and pan them left and right. I would like to have those guys going B, 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 B. And let's find their spot. Yeah, they're already feeding the reverb. We'll see what that's happening in a second here. Now, probably a good idea for me to automate that fade there. So when I do I can do that right now. I'm just going to automate a little fade there. Let me make sure that's my level. I like that level. I do like that level. So let's automate that move real quick, and that couldn't be easier. And these guys are on two separate tracks. Let me open these up a little bit so we can tell who we're dealing with. So we're going to go down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the track where we have this little triangular icon. Open these up. Where we usually find our lollipop stand, but today we have volume here for these guys. Let's open this up a little bit more. Just drag it open. Oh, I've already got one. I've already done this, I think. Let's turn the automation off, and this is where our automation gets activated. And I've already written this automation, so we can All right, so let's try this. Okay, let's lift this one up too. So let me get my little finger here. All right, so you can, if you want to get rid of these little dots, you hit Option, click on them, and that gets rid of the dots. So I'm going to Option click on this one as well. Straightens that right out. Feels like this guy on the left's a little loud though. Okay, that's working for me. So we've got automation on that. Let's just tuck that in back in for now, so we don't have to look at it. All right, let's click on these back up here. So these are pretty much from the word C. This is some delay from the word C that I got here. Let's check this out.
C.
I think that's supposed to just go across like that. Let's see what that level's good or not. I think I need to hear that C a little bit louder. Let's get this up there a little more. let's hear that in context a little bit more.
On the mountain till I saw through the trees above the sea. Got back climbing the.
Okay, let's go back and get that bird of the sea. I think since we're going to hear it, it's a little loud. So let's pull that back a little bit. Cut a little hole here. Let's open these up a little bit. And these are courtesy of Reeves Gabrels from The Cure.
Through the trees above the sea. Got back climbing.
A little quiet. Let's bring that just a little more. 3 dB.
Through the trees above the sea. Got back climbing the mountain.
That's more
Through the trees above the sea. Got back climbing the mountain. No one there to stop me.
I like it. I like it. Let's look at these other harmony vocals here, and let's see what's going on with these guys. All right, let's just loop this.
It's a long time coming round. It's a long time coming round.
Okay, I know it sounds like I'm tweezing out this.
Long time coming round. It's a long time coming round. It's a long time coming round. It's a long time coming round.
Okay, I'm liking that. The left side maybe needs to come down a tiny bit.
It's a long time coming round. It's a long time coming round. It's a long time coming round.
Yeah, so I'm squeezing it pretty good with the compressor, so it's really, all my background vocals should be coming out just straight ahead at a straight up level. I've really pulled off a lot of low end in this because at this point, that low end information is taken up by more important stuff. I really want to get this texture in there. So when we start adding instruments at this point, we're going to be probably skinning off a lot of EQ to help it mix in with the stuff that we already know we like. Because if we just start adding it in willy-nilly with just full of frequencies, then all of a sudden masking occurs, and we are always sort of on the lookout for masking. I've already got plenty of masking going on already. I could probably be doing a lot better job of sifting through it. All right, and there's a saying that we have in mixing, by the way, which is you never finish a mix, you just stop working on it. Let's see where we're going to pan those guys. We got them left and right. We like that. Let's double check that.
It's a long time coming round. It's a long time coming round. It's a long time coming round.
Okay, let me bring in the background vocal reverb, see if I like that.
It's a long time coming round. 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 It's a long time coming round.
I think I like that played
It's a
better.
long time coming
Let's see what it
round.
sounds in the track.
Coming round. It's a long time coming round.
Okay, let's get our next background vocals in. And it looks like all these guys, it's a package deal. So let's just hear them all together. Let's bring them in one at a time.
It's real. 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 Real.
So high to low,
Real. Real.
a real high.
Real. Real.
What's this one?
Real. Real.
Oh, this is a single note. All right. We'll keep them in the middle, sort of. Let's put the high guy. Let me say we go left to right with these guys. So let's see what we can do with that. This with the track and sort of blend, get our blend together. Okay, right off the bat, I know I want to do a good bit more skinning off of low end of these guys, because I just don't want to really, I want this to sort of ride on top of everybody. So let's just filter fairly aggressively across the board here. When it's real, it's a long time coming round, and you feel like you're never going down. And it's real, took a long time, now you're everywhere. Well, right here, let it go, let it go. When it's real, it's a long time coming. Okay, I'm going to do a thing real quick so I can adjust these things globally. Let me consolidate these background vocals real quick. And so let's just do this real quick. Do a quick consolidation. Go to Edit. Consolidate. Now when I can make a global move with clip gain, because I'm still using clip gain, guys. I'm still being a clip gain guy because I haven't gotten to automation quite yet. Getting there though. Getting close. All right, let's check this out. Let me just cut a hole right here so I can have my faders close by. Let's get these guys down 3 dB right off the bat across the board. And we'll sort of work our way back into a good place. And let's go ahead and get these guys into the reverb now, because I want to sort of set this to the reverb. All right. And so let's make sure all of them are feeding the reverb. I've got them in FMP mode, so now they are going to their pan position in that room. A good thing to do. Now let's check this out. And when it's real, it's a long time coming round, and you feel. This is, let me figure out which one of these guys is I'm hearing the loudest real quick. When it's real, real. I think it's that guy. Real, real, real. That guy's got to come down too. All right, so him and this one too, just a little bit. When it's real, when it's real, when it's real. Okay, I think I like that blend a lot better. Again, I've got my compressors pretty much locking down all of these background vocals. So once I sort of set my level, they should be pretty solid there. And I shouldn't have to move them around much. Let's get a better context going into this. Still sounds loud to me. I'm going to bring everybody down just a little 3 dB, because I just really, it hits me hard when it comes into that section. So I like the relative levels I had, so I'm just bringing everybody to 3 dB from that. What was ever gonna be?
hanging up on the mountain seemed the right place for me.
Okay, it's starting to get settled in there. There's still some movement around to get things kind of a little bit more settled. I'm probably going to keep running this and just trying to just get everything to just get a little more pocketed. Everything's in except for the violin. So let's get the violin. That's the last thing we got to do. That's more of a soloistic thing at the end of the tune. Let's get over there and see what's happening with that. Let's just drop in and see what's happening. So here's the two of them together. Here's the microphone. He's a noodler. Here's the amp. We put them together. Okay, let me cut a little hole right here. So I got a fader, and let's sort of adjust these guys' level overall. I haven't even put an effect on them yet, or an EQ. Let's just sort of get them kind of into the pocket first. Just a tiny bit back on both of these guys for starters, but I don't want it too much back. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to ride it between, make sure it gets ridden between the vocals. That's one thing that's going to have to happen. So I'm just going to mostly be listening to this level-wise between vocals. I think I do want to sort of control these dynamics a little bit. I don't want to lose all the dynamics, but I do feel like it's a little bit too much back and forth here. So let's get over to the violin. It's got an Ozone 9 on it already. Let's go ahead and throw the maximizer into it too. Okay, so I've got the violin kind of in there. I'm contemplating maybe adding some extra effects to it, which is certainly in the realm of possibilities. But right now I've got everything is in the mix at this point. So at this point, what I'm still going to be doing, I'm probably going to run this a few more times from top to bottom. And I'm going to try to set a little bit more of the soundstage and try to make sure that my reverbs are, certain things are further back, certain things are in the middle. I kind of want to sort of set things in levels and frequencies as well as in the stage. So there's still a little bit more sort of tweaking to do back and forth, just listening constantly. And you don't want to just sit here and listen with me over and over again, because that's part of mixing, is that you just have to sort of get into the groove of it and listen and concentrate and sort of really sort of make sure you know what you're listening to, and take breaks, like lots of breaks. Okay, so I've got all my stuff in the mix. Let me make sure that's everything. That is everything, right? I got the bird. I got the stuff. Okay. Let's do one more thing before we call it a day here, because the next step that we're going to be doing is automation. We're going to do automation and start doing all of our moves at the end here. I'm going to do our final moves for our final mix. But before we do that, let's check out our stereo bus compressor, because in a previous video you may notice that we did have a stereo bus compressor sort of planted on the submix right here. I got an ozone maximizer going here. Obviously, one of the things that's starting to happen is, even though I'm being really cool with clip gain and I'm pulling everything down and I'm all my levels on my faders at Unity, I am starting to creep up on bad levels. So there's one thing that I know for sure, and that is I have certain laws that I have to obey with my mix. And one of those laws is that I have to have a true peak ceiling of minus 1.0 dB right here. So in my submix, the last thing going to the mix, this is basically the bar that says, thou shalt not go any further than this. And you also have to make sure the true peak button is lit up on this, because it's going to be looking for those true peaks. This is important because we can't have true peaks going over this for streaming, for mastering for iTunes, for any of the mastering stuff that we do for digital. And guess what? You're probably going to be mastering for digital release, my friend, unless you are doing vinyl or CDs. We know CDs are done. Vinyl, you might do vinyl. That's a different ballgame. I've just planted this limiter ceiling right there. And then I've got my compressor threshold, which I can use to have a little fun, get a little bit more RMS, a little more program information packed out of my mix. So right now, let's listen to this mix, and I'm going to open up the threshold. I've recently ended up with about minus 4.4 here, but let's open it up and let's sort of find a place where everything sort of feels punchy, feels good. Let's hear this whole thing from the top, and I'm going to mess with this compressor while we do it, so you'll know what it's doing. This is it without compression, just the ceiling. You can see that we're getting tiny little drop downs for anytime there's a
Never
really
asked for a
major
mountain, it just came to me. I woke up with a mountain between me and the Jews. So I asked the mountain, why'd you come and find me? I never wanted a mountain between me and the one place I wanted to be. I listened hard to the mountain, it said nothing to me. So I climbed up a mountain, it was the only way to break free. Climbing up on the mountain made me forget about the sea. I started thinking that mountains was all my world was ever gonna, all my world was ever gonna, all my world was ever gonna be.
Right here about
satisfied on the mountain. I wasn't never other family.
Pull it down too much. Let me pull it down some more. See how it sounds when it's really squashed.
Good life on the mountain, loving, living free. And I was happy on the mountain till I saw through the trees above the sea. Got back climbing the mountain, no one there to stop me. 'Cause everybody on the mountain was right where we wanted to be.
pull it back and everything gets louder, it does get really pretty seductive to just like, hey, that sounds great. And then you pull it back down again. It's like, oh, it doesn't sound as good. But what I'm listening for is really just how the transients of the track are hitting and sort of responding. I'm trying to hear the excursions of the music and sort of feel how it's sort of, how the music is hitting me. And that's where stereo bus compression is kind of a funny art. It's really sort of hard to sort of dial this in, other than just almost by instinct. You got to sort of find, it's almost by feel. You just sort of find that spot where the music feels right, where it feels like it's hitting you in the right kind of way. I don't know how else to describe it, but the best way to experiment with that is to actually set it up like this and smush it, and then and work it back and forth, and then play it back at a couple of different levels of smushness, but then make sure that you level adjust so that they play it back all at the same level, so you can hear what's really happening. So it's not that the louder thing sounds better, because louder sounds better. That's kind of the thing we're always fighting with mixing, is we have a choice between A and B, and A's louder. We like A louder every freaking time, people. This is a difficulty, because we can't just always get louder. It's better to err on less stereo bus compression at this point, because why? Because you need to have room for mastering. There's a lot of mixers out there that what they love to do is turn their mixes into the mastering guy, and the mastering guy calls them right back and says, dude, it's awesome. I didn't have to touch a thing. Send me the check, man. I just had to put the P's and Q's on it and we're good to go. I am of the mind, though, is that leave a little room for mastering so you can have a choice at that point. If you over compress at the stereo bus master here, when we start making level adjustments, now we're making level adjustments in an environment that is compressed. So when we do a 1 dB level adjustment, it's going to jump out all of a sudden. So every little move we make from here on out, it's going to cause that instrument to find a different place in the mix in this stereo bus compression system. The stakes get a little bit higher. We're trying to keep ourselves from getting into the red zone prematurely, and this is sort of giving us a little backstop already. But it's also giving us a nice little bonus in that we're getting a little bit of extra RMS happening in our sound, which sounds louder, which sounds better, and yeah, better's good. So we want that. I think that's as far as we're going to go today with making the mix. We're at this point. We've got all of our tracks here. Let's just sort of take a quick look at our mix page here, and we've got quite a bit going on here. As you can see, all the drums have EQs. There's two kinds of compression on that. There's drum reverb. There's reverb on the percussion. We didn't do much EQ to that. The bass has an extra amplifier on it. Acoustic guitar has its own reverb. Oh yeah, that's another thing I did. I went up and upped the compression on the ozones here because they all have maximizers on it. I went ahead and squoze those guys a bit more, so there's a little bit more presence in the acoustic guitar. Electric guitars, all of them have, there's two kinds of reverb for them. We've all got ozone 9s for them. Our violin has been dealt with, but the next time that you hear this, you may hear a little effect on that. I may throw a little flange or some kind of Scooby-Doo on that. We got a little bird from Reeves Gabrels. We got all our keyboard stuff sort of in the mix now, which is kind of cool, with some reverb. All of our lead vocals are dealt with. We've got our vocal chain. Once again, just to reiterate, we got our lo-fi, very little tiny bit of lo-fi hitting our ozone limiter, just enough to kick the peaks down, not trying to get any RMS out of it. Hitting our ozone 9, which is we're just getting some, we're filtering, we're getting a little warmth, we're cutting a little hardness, and we're getting some sizzle, and we're getting a little tiny bit of tape echo on the back end of that. Plus two kinds of, we have a delay and a reverb for the vocals. Our backgrounds are dealt with. They all have EQs that have a lot of filtration on it, a little bit high end. They all have their own sends to their own reverb, which may be a little too warm. I may be sculpting a little bit of low end out of that reverb because, as I mentioned earlier, we don't want to be adding low end on the background vocals. And we got all of our masters are wide open here. So we're in good shape. We'll check you next time, and we're going to start making some automation moves, and we're going to try to see if we can't zero in on a final mix of this and put this baby to bed. All right, thanks for joining me with Making the Mix. Later.